Hello, dear friends, brothers, sisters, and spiritual aspirants. Welcome to the 8th episode in our special series about absolute happiness. So, this particular episode is called Creation and Absolute Happiness. It has a very interesting title, you see, Creation and Absolute Happiness. So we are going to discuss about our own, individualized beliefs about whatever we see around us, in this particular video. And then we are going to look at what are our beliefs about creation, and then how does this absolute happiness, or how does this unconditional happiness tie in with this, with these different beliefs of creation. And it's quite interesting that finally we will come to the conclusion that is there really a creation, or is it that everything that we see, however we see, and everything that we do, whatever we do, is nothing but just a projection of this absolute happiness? And is it that whatever we interact with, you see, happiness, sadness, sorrow, birth, death, whatever it may be, is that actually the reality? Is that the self? Is that the absolute happiness? And did this so-called creation, did this so-called birth and death, did this so-called creation and then preservation and then dissolution, did it really ever occur? So that's a brief summary of what we will be discussing. So it is always best that you see we relate everything to our day-to-day experiences, because whatever you relate to your own experience, whatever you experience yourself, you see, that only lives with you as a part of your own being, as a part of your own experience. So look at yourself, right? Interesting. And this is the story of virtually every human being. What is your belief, or what is my belief about this creation? You see, we believe that everything has evolved gradually over time, and that is what science tells us, and that is what we actually see. You see, look at it. Before you were born, your parents were there. They must have met at a particular age, and then they got married. So naturally, after marriage, one of the things which happens is that a family is built, right? After about 1 or 2 years of marriage, children are born. Over 5 or 6 years, your parents may have 2 children or 3 children, and you also have been born. So what I'm pointing at is, first your parents came, and even when your parents came, the world was still there existing, isn't it? Then your parents met, they got married, and then after some time, the children were born, and you are one of the child who has been born. And you may have other siblings, brothers and sisters. And you look at yourself, right from birth to whatever your present age is, gradually you have been growing, isn't it? And you see, if you examine your own life, the events which are taking place in your life are also gradual, isn't it? Look at it. You wake up in the morning, you have your morning tea, you have your bath, right? Then maybe if you're a student, you go to the college, If you are a professional, you go to the office to work. If you are a trade person, you go and do your trade work. And then there are so many events which happen. You meet so many people. You see, breakfast moves on to lunchtime. Lunch moves on to evening time, and then it's dinner, and then you eventually are tired. It's about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and you go to sleep. But what is happening is that, you see, with the passage of time, you see, the events are happening gradually. You see, even when you look back, there was the Ice Age. Prior to that, there were the dinosaurs, then there was the Atlantean period, and now we are here in this modern age, and the age of science, the age of medicine, whatever you may call it. But what I'm pointing out is that everything is gradual. Now, is this actually true? That is it that this world has evolved and things have been created gradually? Now, this is quite interesting. You see, this is what normally each one of us believes in. But the great masters, the great teachers, the scriptures tell us that, there is something missing in this belief of yours of gradual creation, because this is only what you are believing in, what is happening in your surroundings. They say that those who want to reach towards absolute happiness, they then go one step further. There is something else to this creation. So what is this second step? You see, the first step that we explained, gradual creation, is that first this creation took place. First my surroundings were formed, and then I came, which is the normal belief. But the second one is a little bit different. As we move forward, you see, what is the second one? The second explanation of creation is that, you see, it is not that the world is first created and then you appear, which is the normal belief, but it's the other way around. I see the world and then the world appears. Look at it. When you see the world, then only the world appears. If you are not looking out into this world, there is no world for you. I'm just explaining this only with reference to yourself. Don't be confused, right? This is the case with everybody, every human being. Look at it very carefully. You see, you go through 3 states. Awake, right? Activity in the awake state. Then dreams, about 9:30, 10 o'clock when you go to sleep. Then there is the state of dreams. And then there is the last state, which is the state of deep sleep. Now, when you are in deep sleep, you don't even know about yourself. If you are married, you don't even know the presence of your wife, that she is sleeping next to you. You don't even know where you work, what you do. You are in deep sleep, engulfed by the darkness of deep sleep, right? And this is everyone's experience. But what happens? In the morning, as you wake up, you see, when you wake up, then you see the world and the world appears to you. You may say, oh, well, there is somebody in another country or in another place, or there is daylight in America, and it is probably nighttime in Australia or nighttime in India. The people in America are awake. But look at this very carefully if you really have to understand this. Does not matter. Whenever that person wakes up, whether in America or in India or in England or in Australia, it is only then. It is only then when you see the world, when your 5 senses are active, only when you see the world does the world appear to you. And this is your everyday experience. So Look at it again carefully. The world appears to me when I see the world, otherwise there is no world for me. Right? Interesting. And this is also your normal everyday experience. Look at it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to contemplate on it. You don't have to reflect on it. That actually is the truth. You see? First we were saying the world has evolved gradually and then I appeared. Okay, that is correct at its place. But now we are saying that the world appears to me only when I see the world. So this is called seeing, and then the world appears. Very interesting, right? But so you see, we are actually moving closer towards, attaining that state, understanding that state of unconditional, absolute happiness. You see, in which we are not affected by, whatever problems, whatever darkness, whatever disaster we may actually come across. We are actually able to face the good things and the bad things with the same equanimity. But you see, now we are going deeper into this. And what we have actually heard, which is the true experience of sages, to name a few, like Sage Ramana, one of the greatest sages, my own Satguru, or my own master who led me to this knowledge. You see, take other examples. There is a very big known Satguru, his name is Yoga Vasishtha. Yoga Vasishtha was the guru of Lord Rama. We are talking roughly 7,300 years before Christ. Take another, I'll give you two more examples. There's another great sage, Shankaracharya, from India, right? And his guru was Gaudapada, right? If you want another example, take the example of Sage Ribhu. Sage Ribhu was, 3,500, 4,000 years before Christ. Now all of these have actually pointed at something else, something very different. In Sanskrit language, it's called ajeta. But in our normal day-to-day language, when we translate it, we will call it birthless, never born. So what they say is that this world has never been created. It has never been sustained, and it's never been dissolved. You see, which is completely opposite to our beliefs. But then what they are saying is that, look, what you see, however you see, whether it is you, the individual, or it is this world of yours that you see, your parents, your siblings, your job, your house, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your marriage, your children, whatever it is, the sky, the sun, the stars, the galaxies, whatever is there in this world of space and time, they say that don't be fooled. All that you see is your own self. You see, your own self means, with a bigger S, means God, means the reality, means that which is beyond space and time, means the other name that we have been using is absolute happiness. Very interesting, isn't it? They say that everything that you see, in whatever form you see, however you see, is nothing but the reality. But you see, now this is the question. How do you come to this conclusion, and how actually do you prove this? But before we go, into these details, let us recap. I want to just recap, just to summarize. Please look at figure 1, right? So what is this figure 1 showing? The figure 1, as we had discussed, is talking about gradual creation, right? What is gradual creation? That this world has been created, this world is already there, and then I came into the world. I was born of my parents and I started participating, right? And then from birth, from the age 1 till say the age of 85 or 90, I will live. And gradually as I grow, things will change, events will change. From a student, I'm going to become a family man, get married, then I have children. My children will grow up, the children will get married, and then the children will have their kids, and I will become a grandfather, and then a day will come when I have to leave this physical body. So everything is happening gradually. So that is what we discussed. What we normally believe in is gradual creation, right? Okay, now let's take this figure 1 away. The second thing that we discussed, right? I'm repeating these so that you are very, very clear about what we are discussing. The second thing that we discussed, let us look at figure 2. You see, the second thing that we discussed is that, look, I see the world. That's what this figure is saying. And then the world appears. This is actually true. You see, as long as you are actually active in the physical body, as long as you are awake, only then this world is actually appearing to you. You see, when it is about 9:30, in the night time, 9:30 p.m. or 10 o'clock, it is time for you to, most of us, to go to sleep, and then we go into a different world. Then the world of dreams appears to us. You see, this world of the awake state is lost to us. Isn't it? It's negated. You're now in a dream state. But then what happens is that after dreaming for about, half an hour or 1 hour, you suddenly go to deep sleep. And when you're in deep sleep, this entire world of dreams and this entire world of the awake state has completely disappeared. So this is what this second figure is saying. You see, whatever you see, you only experience that. Whether there is gradual creation or no gradual creation doesn't matter. But this is a fact of life. Only when you are there is there a world for you. When you are not there, there is no world there. And this is your everyday experience. When I see the world, when I see my brothers, my sisters, my parents, my job, I look at myself, it's only then, you see, that the world appears. So this is the second belief, that when I see, then the world appears. But then there is the third component, which, as I had explained, the sages have actually explained to us. You see, I named quite a few sages, Sage Ramana, Sage Ribhu, Sage Vashisht, Sage Shankaracharya, and many others, right? What they have said is, look at this figure 3. They say that there is no creation. No creation. Whatever you see is only the reality. It is only God. And you see, this what you're calling as reality is none other than you. You see, whatever you see, however you see, in whatever form you see, is nothing but the reality. So, in this figure 3, what we call as Ajeta, or what we call as never born, or what we call as birthless, what the sages are actually telling us is that their experience is no creation, all is the self. So let us focus on the third one. How actually is it true? How come that everything is the self? How come everything is nothing but just a projection, but it is that absolute happiness or God or self itself? Or in other words, it's only you. You as the self or the reality are actually everywhere. Very interesting actually, you see. But this is the experience of enlightened sages. Okay, moving on now from figure 3. I'll just come back to this, it's just a small reading. Once this question was put to Sage Ramana, and just paraphrasing in my own words, the question was that, look, the scriptures say that for the ordinary, you see, the theory of gradual creation has been put forward. And those who are a little bit more advanced, the theory of first you see and then the world appears has been put forward. But those who want to reach the state of absolute happiness, the third stage, that nothing is ever born, everything is the self, actually has been put forward. So quite an interesting question was put forward. And then the devotee, he says, what is your opinion, Sage Ramana? What is your opinion about this? So Sage Ramana says, you see, that there is no dissolution or creation. Look at it. No one is in bondage, nor anyone pursuing spiritual practices. Right? There is no one desiring liberation, and nor is anyone liberated. I'll read it again, There is no dissolution or creation, no one is in bondage, nor is anyone pursuing spiritual practices. There is no one desiring liberation, and neither is anyone liberated. But then Sage Ramana adds that, you see, one who is established in the self sees this by his knowledge of reality. Look at the words. One who is established in the self, one who is established in consciousness, one who is established in absolute happiness. Sage Ramana says that he can see this very clearly by his, by that, that person's or that individual's knowledge of reality. You see, what is this knowledge of reality? What is this knowledge of absolute happiness that seems to be missing? What is it? What is it that we do not know that these sages knew? So this is what we have to actually scrutinize and go a little bit deeper and try and understand if we want to reach that state of what we call as absolute happiness. You see, it's very interesting. Everything is transitory, isn't it, in space and time? So there must be something wrong. It doesn't seem to be permanent. So looking at this, look at it. You see, who is saying that there is a creation, there is a preservation, and there is a dissolution? Look at this very carefully if you want to understand that nothing is ever born, everything is the self. Who says that there is a creation, there is a preservation, and there is a dissolution? It is only you who says there's a creation, there's a preservation, there's a dissolution. Who says that I am in bondage? I have a lot of personal karma and I'm in bondage. Again, it is you who is saying that I have a lot of karma, a lot of personal karma, and I am in bondage. And then who is saying that I want to go on a spiritual path and I want liberation? You see, look at it very carefully. Again, it is you. Again, it is the personality. Again, it is that individual person who says that I will follow a spiritual path so that I can reach absolute happiness and so that I can be liberated. So who wants liberation? It is you again who wants liberation. So you see, the whole thing is coming down to this me. It is the person. If the person is not there, then there is no gradual creation. If this person does not see this projected world, then this world doesn't exist for that person. But what we forget is that it is the person at the center of all these things. You see, whatever you do, look at it very carefully, whether it is this life or it is another life, say life with the angels, wherever you may be in space and time, whatever you do, however you do, you have to be there for that to be undertaken. If you are not there, then nothing is there. That's the point that we are making, and this is what needs to be understood very, very clearly if you want to get to that knowledge of reality, if you want to get to that knowledge of absolute happiness. So Sage Ramana further says that, you see, when you scrutinize the mind, you see, this personality is nothing but the mind. It's just nothing but a single thought that I am Anilji or I am Harry. You see, when you scrutinize this so-called mind, which is nothing but a bundle of thoughts, and the main thought is the I thought, which is me, the one that is saying there is creation, preservation, dissolution, I'm in bondage, I have personal karma, I need to be liberated, I need a Satguru. You see, look at it very carefully. You see, when you scrutinize this I thought, or when you scrutinize the mind without forgetfulness is a very big word, right? Without forgetting your own true nature, without forgetting who you really are. You see? Without forgetting, then actually you will find that there is no such thing as this personality or this world. This personality is nothing but you only. This you is nothing but the self or absolute happiness itself. You are happiness. You are absolute happiness itself. But Sage Ramana says, without forgetfulness, and this is our problem, we forget. Right? I will discuss this a little bit more as we go further. Right? And then you see, it is quite interesting, just a small story here, that there was this poet, who has written more than 30,000 verses on this Sage Ramana, my Satguru. Because of him, I possess now this knowledge and this experience, and I share it freely with others. You see, Murungar, this poet, lived very closely with Sage Ramana. They had a lot of interactions, and he has categorically said in one of the verses, I'll tell you the book as well, it's called Guru Vachak Kawai, and it is verse number 100. In that, he says that although the Lord Guru Ramana expressed many doctrines according to the beliefs and maturity of individuals, each of those people who came and asked him questions, no, he says, please know that what we heard him declare, what we heard Sage Ramana declare to be his own real experience is the doctrine of no creation. He said that what Sage Ramana said is that his real experience was that there is no creation. Now, you see, we have understood practically just the theoretical aspects. But now, coming to the second segment of this discussion, I'll explain to you two things by which, it will be proven beyond doubt that everything that you see is nothing but you. So first of all, look at yourself. Let me take an example of a person called, say, Tony. Right? Or it can be anyone, it can be, a person called, let's say, just trying to remember a name, say Ruby. Right? Now, you look at yourself, you see, no one actually tells you that, say, you are Tom. Let's take the example of Tom. Sorry, I'm using different names. But when you look at yourself, no one actually tells you that you are called by so-and-so name and you are so-and-so. You just know it When you wake up in the morning, you don't actually have to tell yourself that I am actually Anil or I am actually Jack. You know that, right? No one reminds you of this. But look at one thing very, very carefully. For you to know yourself who you are, somebody has to tell you from within who you are. I know it's a little bit confusing, but you see, you never make any effort to know who you are. It is naturally known to you, right? Now, how is it naturally known to you? It's very simple. Look at it. You see, who is telling you that, say, you are Anilji? My wife, my children, my friends. No one tells me that. I just know it. When I wake up in the morning, I know that I am Anilji, right? So, the very simple answer to that is that I only am telling myself that I am Anilji. Isn't it? Somebody within you reminds you who you are. Of course, that is consciousness or the reality, but I'm not using that term. You see, who is actually telling you that you are actually Anilji? The simple answer is that you only are telling yourself that you are actually Anilji. And who is this you? Because this you, sitting within you, this you is making you conscious that you are Anilji, isn't it? You are conscious that I am conscious that I am Anilji. You are conscious who you are. So something within you is making you conscious of who you are, right? Test it. Try it. This is actually correct. Now we come to the second question. If you are telling yourself that you are actually Anilji or you are actually Sunil or whatever you are, whatever your name is, you only are telling yourself intuitively that you are actually so and so. So who became this you? I mean, who became this personality? You only became this individual or you only became this personality, isn't it? Look at it. And this big you who is telling that you are so and so is nothing but the reality or the consciousness. And look at any human being. In every human being, it is the same. The same light of consciousness, the same you, the same self, the same absolute happiness only tells you who you are. And then you behave as an individual. So if you became whatever you are, Anilji or Sunilji or Jack or Harry, whatever it is, then whatever you see, whatever you project yourself towards can be none other than the reality. Right? Think about it. Quite beautiful. Now I come to another aspect. If you go back to our previous video 7, I had explained that you see, if you go to a cinema hall and on the screen no movie is playing, you'll feel very bored. But then when the movie is playing, you feel quite happy. And what I had explained was that you see, there was a time beyond space and time. Right? Spacelessness and timelessness. And nothing could be expressed there. You see, no creation, no preservation, no dissolution. Then what happened? After that, you see, you only, who was beyond space and time, became this light of consciousness. So that is how the law of duality came. One is the spacelessness and the timelessness reality. The other is consciousness. That's how two things, the principle of duality came. Then came the principle of creation, preservation, and dissolution. And then came the Trinity. You see, the creator, the preserver, the destroyer, called Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh in Hindu language. And it's called, the Trinity is called Father, Son, and Spirit, and different names in different religions. So they executed this law of creation, preservation, and dissolution. And then came space and time. And then came this world of ours. Then came these galaxies, the suns, the moons. And you evolved over time. And you evolved so much that if you look at yourself today, like one of my masters, whose presence is there even now, Rishi Master Byansa Duno. According to him, we have spent close to 14 billion years just here on Earth. And over this long period of time, we have become this individual, we have become this character, these habits. Exactly what you are today is the sum total of whatever you have been doing in the past to be whatever you are today right at this moment. But what has happened is that you only believe in your personality. You forgot completely about your true nature sitting right behind you, the light of consciousness, right? And you see that principle of contradistinction. You see, you are distinctly opposite to your own reality, who you are, because you are the one who says that I have got personal karma, I am in bondage, I want to be liberated, and so forth and so on. You know, your beliefs, there is no end to those, right? But what you have got to look at is that even after such a long time, you could never forget. We don't know when did you become this light of consciousness, from spacelessness to timelessness. When did you become the light of consciousness? We actually do not know, right? So you look at it very carefully, even though we do not know. But one thing is there, that this light of consciousness is even present today. You see, this changeless reality is present right here as we talk, right? Look at this very carefully. And you know this by your personal experience. You see, for you to think, for you to feel, for you to do anything, for you to even listen to this video, you have to be, the first thing is that you have got to be conscious of what you're doing. You have to be conscious that you're awake. You're conscious that you're dreaming. And then when you, after sleep, when you wake up, you're conscious that you have been sleeping. Anything, to cook food, to catch a train, you know, to do toothbrush, to do shaving, to wash your hairs, whatever it may be, you have to be conscious. And this is the thing to which we pay no attention, because this consciousness never changes. Now look at it very carefully by your own experience. This consciousness is the screen on which is projected the world of space and time, on which appear all these aspects. Anything that you see, creation, preservation, dissolution, forms, names, functions, events, they all appear on this screen of consciousness. It is your living experience as we are talking. You see, how can that which appears on the screen of consciousness be different from consciousness? You know, contemplate on this. This is the real experience of these sages like Sage Ramana, Jesus Christ. Jesus also said that me and my Father are one. Me, Jesus, and the reality Christ, and this reality is one, not two. That is why, you see, nothing is ever created, born, or destroyed. Of course, you see these happenings on the screen of consciousness, but without forgetting, without forgetfulness, look at it. It is none other than you, the real you, and the real you is this consciousness, and this is your own experience. You can experiment with it as we are talking, that on this screen of consciousness, as it flows out from you, appears this world of space and time. How can anything which appears on a screen be different from the screen? Because it appears on the screen. It's not separated from the screen. We will discuss this further, more in detail in our next video 9. So coming to the conclusion, we bring back this figure 3 again. Look at this figure. No creation, all is self. So with this, I will bring this video to a close. And once again, I thank you from the core of my heart. I thank you from the core of my heart, you see, for having given your time to listen to this video. I understand this is a little bit hard, little bit difficult, but you see, for anything to be achieved, effort is required. So once again, thank you for having given your time and having listened so patiently. And I hope that you see, this particular video itself will help to establish you in the state of absolute happiness. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Bye-bye.